Can you have a body of work that shows that you're resilient, that you're strong, that you're tough, that you can handle it?
Is thinking about it kind of like the biggest stopper in your opinion?
If you already told yourself it's going to be tough, it's going to be difficult, then it's going to be that much easier to talk yourself out of it. There's a lot of questions to answer around that. What's the thing that you really want? And then you got to kind of figure out, why do you want that? I think as you build up strength in one area, it just made me more confident. I think people are kind of nervous about getting away from what's normal. When you do that over and over and over again, well, then it's easier to leap into something and look like the most courageous guy in the room or the bravest guy in the room. It's so funny. I having hair, I don't ever know what to do with it anymore.
I haven't had hair, oh man, since like the 90s. That's a joke.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm like, how old is Andrew?
Not that old. I'm pretty old, but not that old.
It's weird, the 90s. They're a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But they weren't, though, right?
They're still 10 years ago.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. It was not just me.
No. They're 10 years ago.
Yeah. Somebody told me something the other day, like, that's 35 years old. Or that's 35 years ago. I'm like, what? Somebody said something about Clinton, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it was an old Bill Clinton thing. I was like, well, that's not from that long ago.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, yeah, well, it was from a pretty long time ago.
I read this thing the other day, and it was like, if you really want to blow like a kid's mind, be like, hey, guess what? I'm older than Google. And they'll be like, no way, Google's been around forever. It's like, no, I've been around longer. Because I think it came around like 98 or something like that. So Google's not that old. Google's only like 2 years old.
My brother won a music video award from Yahoo in like 1998 or something.
Yeah.
And we were like, what the fuck's that?
Yeah. Do you remember the like the old battle? It's like, hey, do you use Google or Yahoo? Right. Like now nobody even if you see a @Yahoo like email address, like, damn, you're old.
Well, you know what saved Google is YouTube. And you know what saved YouTube is us. Super training, the Power Project. I mean, look, we're not saying anything that's false. This is the truth. People have watched millions and millions and millions of hours of the Power Project and all the other content that we have. And we've been keeping Google afloat the whole time. So everybody could just thank us.
That makes sense.
Send us $5.
Yeah.
And a picture of your mom. She could be dressed. It doesn't have to be too crude.
We like a little mystery.
Yeah, right?
Oh my goodness. That was a good run, Mark. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was, right?
Yeah, the last Saturday school we had talked about it.
Oh, I thought you meant like the show's over. Like,
we had a good run.
Yeah.
On that note.
And you made it kind of made it kind of alarming. I was like, yeah, you too, Andrew. It's great. Oh, the literal run that we went on. We were moving our feet around.
Yeah. You're like, what are we going to do with all this equipment?
Yeah, I was close. I was getting fired again.
Yeah.
It was a good run.
It was great. Yeah.
We did a little bit of sprints in between, or surges rather. It felt really good. I think we did like 9 total. We did 3 30-second surges and then 3 1-minute surges. And in between that, we were trying to like jog at a slow pace, but we were going pretty good. Overall, it was a 10-minute mile pace for about 3 miles. That's some work.
Yeah, and I started my watch when we were still kind of warming up. So yeah, it was on. We
went over 3 miles probably.
Yeah, we were close to 4, but of course it was like run walk in the beginning.
Yeah,
but no, dude, I felt pretty good. We'll see how I feel when I get up out of this kneeling chair. My legs will probably be a little beat up, but no, it feels
sore. You'll feel a little drained. Because it's a little bit like a lifting session in a way, because that one kind of taxes your nervous system a little bit. So you'll definitely feel it, but it'll be good for you. It'd be good for you to train fatigued. You go into jiu-jitsu tomorrow, the next day, it'd actually be good for you to have to kind of like suck it up and still be able to like fight people.
Yeah. So I guess, we can roll right into what we were talking about.
Yes, sir.
Thinking about that, I'm already like, man, that's going to be pretty hard. I'm thinking like, do I have to go in tomorrow? I wasn't planning on it. because tomorrow is the day that I plan on lifting. But like after what you just said, I'm like, well, actually would be a good idea to lean further into it. But man, it's going to be difficult. You know, right now I'm like, do I have enough in me to like actually get out there and do it? So what I was kind of wanting to talk about today is like, yeah, like how do you face the hard thing? How do you have the courage to go out and do something that's difficult? Because sometimes, man, it just seems like it's not even there, you know?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways to go about doing this, but I think probably the main way that I go about doing a lot of things is just really not overthinking stuff and just trying to make it to the next thing. You know, what's the next pillar that I can make it to? If you're swimming and you're in the ocean, like where's the next buoy?
Mm-hmm.
You know, fuck, man, I don't know if I can make it all the way back to the land and be safe, but can I make it to the next buoy? Can I figure that out? And I think in life, we want to try to think about what we can kind of make it to next, what we can kind of almost rest on and like catch a little bit of a breather. At the same time, it's not great to always be looking into the future because you need to be paying attention to like what's going on right now. And I think you can also do this like sensibly. You don't always have to be like marching forward. You don't always have to be the strongest one in the room day in and day out. But hopefully over time, you're the strongest one around. That's what I look at. It's like, can you have a body of work that shows that you're resilient, that you're strong, that you're tough, that you can handle it? So as far as tomorrow goes, I don't see anything wrong with like being like, I'm not going tomorrow, to be honest with you, because you're going to be able to rest, recover, maybe get the proper nutrition in. Hopefully you get a little extra sleep. And then when you go in for when you go in like for Friday's session or something like that, you'll be ready to roll again, and you'll be strong and you'll be fresh. And so sometimes some of the stuff that we talk about with like courage or resilience, sometimes it's just like you're just up against it, like you're just tired, bro. Sometimes people need a meal. Sometimes people need to sit the fuck down. Every once in a while, people need to chill, and we talk about that so much on this show. Of course, there's going to be times where you actually have to diet. Of course, there's going to be times where you actually have to put out large amounts of energy. But how are you going to put out a large amount of energy with a diet that's not sufficiently supplying you with enough energy? You can't make something out of nothing. And so the human body and the human being, period, needs enough resources to be able to mitigate life stresses that come at us. We need to be able to sprawl. We need to be able to not allow life to grab your ankle or life to do a double leg or single leg on you. You need to figure out a way. You need to have strategy on how to keep things at bay at some times. And sometimes it's also just a knowledge thing. Like sometimes the more information that you have about particular things, the easier it is to have less stress about it and to have more courage, appear to be more courageous than someone else. Somebody that goes into a burning building, like, wow, that seems really courageous, right? That is courageous. Like, holy shit, thank God that there's somebody like that that's going to go and save somebody. But there's also firemen that do that all the time, and they're trained, right? And they understand, oh shit, the fire probably came from there. Maybe they got a call, and they're, by the description of the fire and by the smell, they could tell what kind of fire it is. It's a gas fire. It's this, it's that. And they know the safest way to get someone out of there. So that person might seem like a genius, and they might seem really courageous. And I'm sure it still takes courage, even when you have knowledge. However, they have enough knowledge and they have the supplies with them to take care of the fire in an appropriate way so that they can still save the person and not hurt themselves.
Yeah, got to have the courage to also not do it, right? So I'm going to go roll Friday, and then I have wrestling training Saturday. So that's going to take a lot out of me. So I'll be thinking about it. But is thinking about it kind of like the biggest stopper in your opinion? Because sometimes if I have an afternoon session, I can easily talk myself out of that. My morning sessions, it's like, oh, dude, I woke up on the mat. Like I don't even know how I got here, but I'm here, so let's go. Do you think that thinking is like one of the biggest reasons why people don't kind of build up the courage to go and do whatever it is that they're trying to do?
Yeah, you want to try to really build in a habit or an unflinching discipline. Something that you just like you're going, like you're doing it no matter what. Remember your dad when you were a kid and he's like, "Sorry, son, like this is not an option. Like you're going with me. We're going to the hardware store," or whatever that is, whatever thing they felt like they needed to make you do. And I think we need to do that with ourselves sometimes. Sometimes you have to tell yourself, this is something that we're going to do. I know in the military when they have Hell Week, where they train all hours of the day and night, and they even will be sleep deprived and everything. I guess one of the like laws, not just a rule but a law, is that they're supposed to feed you every like 6 hours. Mm-hmm. So some guys will just say, "Next meal." They'll tell each other, "Next meal, make it to the next meal. Hey, bro, just make it to the next meal." Mm-hmm. And I think that's the mindset that you want to have sometimes. Like, I'm going to make it to the gym. I'm going to make it to the place where we're doing jujitsu. I'm going to make it to the place where we're wrestling. And I'm going to be there no matter what. How well it goes, I don't know. I might be really tired and I might have a pissy, I might not do great. But even with that, you don't want to overthink that. You just want to get yourself there. Once you get yourself there, give yourself the best opportunity to do the best that you possibly can. And this is where we have to knock down like a series of lies. It's easy to get somewhere. It's easy to show up somewhere late, and it's easy to show up somewhere unprepared and to go, "Man, I'm exhausted." That's really easy to do. What's difficult to do is to show up somewhere prepared and show up somewhere on time and maybe even a little early-ish. Maybe for you in this particular case, maybe you got to get there 15 minutes early. Maybe the gym is locked and you can't even get in at the time that you're supposed to be there or whatever. Maybe you got to go on like a light jog, or maybe you got to warm up at home and stretch and roll out and do some things, or be up early, have a cup of coffee, hang out for a little bit, take a dump, mm-hmm. and start to mentally prepare your mind for what it is you're about to do. But it's so easy. Like if you already told yourself that it's going to be tough, it's going to be difficult, then it's going to be that much easier to talk yourself out of it. And again, I realize what I just said earlier is like sometimes you just shouldn't go. And that's important because we do need rest. You need to be able to like reload. Mm-hmm. If you can't reload and like recoil, you're not going to have any spring. You're not going to be able to really punch back the way that you need to. And a lot of times that's exactly what we need in life. So it's hard to pick and choose when we do that and when we don't do that. But another example of that is like how you train even. Like how are you, what are you doing in training? For many, many years, I would use very similar weights on squats, and my training partners were always like, why aren't you using more weight? Like, why don't you go in heavier? And I just didn't need a heavier weight to give me the same stimulus. I'm like, why would I go heavier? I don't need more weight. And even now, that's like kind of my main mantra now is like, I don't need a bunch of weight. I could actually go in the gym and do some squats with 50-pound kettlebell and get tremendous work out of it. I don't really need to load the back with 700 pounds or anything like that anymore. And even when I was doing that, even when I was lifting very heavy, even when I was squatting over 1,000 pounds in competition, my training weights were light. And again, the training partners were like, well, I don't understand. Like, well, they thought I was like probably slacking off, but no, that wasn't the case at all. I knew that I knew that's all I needed. I don't need any more than this. This is perfect. And I also felt confident enough that I was going to be able to make it work when it mattered most. And I saw a lot of other people overtraining, lifting too heavy too often, and when it mattered most, they weren't able to perform.
So when would it be appropriate? Because you were just talking about the same weight, getting to the next meal. When would it be appropriate to look up and then kind of take a glance at the goal and like the long-term, goal instead of just the next meal, the next set, whatever it may be?
For me, I just spent many, many years with my head down, just working, dragging, kind of compare it to like a sled drag. Mm-hmm. Drag a sled behind you. And you just keep dragging it and dragging it and dragging it and dragging it for as long as you can. And eventually people are like, wow, man, you're really doing a great job. And you kind of look up and you're like, what? All these people are here for me, cheering me on. Like, what happened? And they're cheering you on because you just broke the all-time sled pulling record. You pulled it further than anybody in history. But really all you were doing is putting one foot in front of the other for a really long time. When is it okay to kind of like look up? And, I do think it's important that you have an aim. So you want to set a goal and you want to think about that goal. But I like to do a lot of this stuff almost like in reverse. So what is the thing that you want to get? What's the thing that there's a lot of questions to answer around that. What's the thing that you really want? And then you got to kind of figure out, why do you want that? What's this for? Is this because if it's like for other people and it's kind of wishy-washy on what it is and what's it for, then maybe you're not even ready to receive that yet. When you have better answers and stronger answers, then I think you'll already have everything that you need on the inside to get whatever it is that you're looking for. And these things, it takes time to build them up. But again, back to, the skill sets and stuff, I don't think there's a ton of reason to worry about the thing that's ahead. I did say get to the next meal, and I am talking about being able sometimes just to survive, to get yourself to certain places. Like I do that daily when I come to the gym. Like the mission for the day is like, I don't really know exactly what I'm doing, but I know that in the past going to the gym has worked for me. It's worked for me aesthetically. It's worked for me strength-wise. I've been able to build myself up. I've been able to lose weight. I've been able to make myself look better aesthetically, and I've been able to make advancements in these things. And I was also able to make a career out of some of it. So just get yourself to the gym. For somebody else, maybe their version is just get yourself to work, get yourself to your job, and then you'll figure out the next steps from there. Something I did a long time ago when I didn't have as much vision and I didn't know what was going on, I would just go to Starbucks. I would just drive to Starbucks and sit there on my iPad, and I would just like look shit up. Podcasts weren't real hot back then, so I wasn't really doing much of that. But I would just look stuff up, and I would read articles about like lifting and stuff like that. But Starbucks is literally where I started to come up with ideas on not just the slingshot itself, but even like where I was going to get it made and all these other things. Now, I wouldn't have had the strength or the courage, or wouldn't have felt like I was enough had I not gotten myself to the gym to be able to lift the weights that I did. Because who the fuck am I to make some invention that helps people bench more? Well, I have a story behind me. I think it's pretty good. Like, I tore my pec 3 times. I bench over 500 pounds raw. I bench nearly 900 pounds in a bench shirt. And then it's like, that's something that people can kind of get behind. That's something that people can look for, and something people can admire. But for me, I was never really looking up at that necessarily. I just kept working, and I just kept doing the things that I knew that were productive and that were going to keep moving me forward.
So can you kind of go deeper on like why your accomplishments in the gym meant anything as far as like making good business decisions?
Yeah, you have to build yourself up somehow. And for young men in this day and age, especially, I think, I don't know where else you'd build yourself up. And I don't know how else you'd build yourself up other than like a lot of physical activity, I believe. Just because we don't have so much physical activity anymore. And so I think it's even more important now than ever for people to run or lift, bodybuild, power lift, do jujitsu, cycle, climb rocks, whatever. I think our young men especially really need that. I think as you build up strength in one area, like I did, as I built up some strength in the gym, it just made me more confident. It made all the other decisions that I made easier. Is it helpful to have more courage, or is it helpful to have less courage? when it comes to business or when it comes to life in general. It's always going to matter. It's always going to be important. It's important to have more courage. So how do you build that? How do you get momentum with that? Well, for some people, I mean, it could be a variety of things. It could be that they start playing the guitar and they get better at that. But where all courage, I think, stems from is improvement. When you start making improvements, it's going to be easier to kind of put yourself on the line in that particular thing, in that particular field. Think about like who grabs a microphone during karaoke? Sometimes it's people that are entertaining, that are just fun. They're there to have some fun. Or sometimes people are hammered, right?
Yeah.
But being hammered gives you courage, liquid courage, they call it, right?
Yes.
But a lot of times you go to these things and it's very clear. You're like, all right, well, yeah, we get it. You just dunked on everybody. Like
you're trying to get signed tonight.
Yeah, and they rip out this beautiful song, and you're like, that's cool, right?
Yeah.
But do they have way more courage than you, or do they just have a skill set?
Right.
And I would say maybe it's a small combination of both, or a large combination of both. And then same thing with, literally anything else you can think of, because courage is something that you do, but you're afraid to do. It's something that you do anyway, regardless of the fear that you might have inside. And it would be ridiculous to not have some fears about what it is you're going to do. I think that's the way the human brain is wired to help protect us. Like, if I go too far over that way, I think there's like lions and tigers and bears and I'm going to get eaten, So I'm not going to get too far away from my tribe. And I think even in just kind of more modern day, I think people are kind of nervous about getting away from what's normal, getting away from like what's typical. And a lot of the stuff that's typical, again, it's easy to be unprepared. It's easy to be out of shape. It's easy to just sit there and order DoorDash and watch TV. Like, that's not anything we got to work on. We don't need to work on that. Like, that's taken care of. You're going to probably end up doing some of those bad habits anyway. Bad habits are something that you're not like, man, I got to really start going to bed later. I got to watch more porn. Like, I got to watch more porn. Porn needs to be on everything, on my iPad, on my iPhone. It's got to be, it's not like I've only been drinking 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. I got to bump that way up. And it's only 3 drinks. I got to double that at least. So the bad habits and the little devil on your shoulder, it's going to be there. It's going to win a lot. But when you lean into doing the things that are in your best interest, the things that are good for you, the things that you enjoy, that are going to move you forward, when you do that over and over and over again, well, then it's easier to leap into something and look like the most courageous guy in the room or the bravest guy in the room. Like, how does that guy always do that? Or how is it that everything that guy does seem to turn to gold, And it's not necessarily just because the guy's courageous. It's also like a knowledge base. The guy figured out like an algorithm. There's an algorithm to business. There's an algorithm to everything. There's an algorithm to jiu-jitsu. And as soon as you think you have the algorithm figured out, someone else probably shows you like, hey, you're not really there. Mm-hmm. But that's great. Like, it's good to be humbled and stuff, because again, you do need to be aware. You do need to be aware. There's many levels to how courageous you can get and how powerful you can feel within a certain realm. I've mentioned this before, but mental toughness is almost like a myth in some ways. I do believe that you do need to work on some mental toughness, and you can callous your mind the way that David Goggins talks about, and you can make your mind a little tougher. However, take some of the toughest people that you think are really tough and just put them in a situation that they're unfamiliar with, completely unfamiliar with. Take your best fighter and put him on the Today Show randomly. And he's got to take over the job of a normal anchor on the Today Show, and he's got to do all the you're going to be like, oh my God, this is like killing my brain. Or put them in a movie, and now they got to be Tom Cruise, and they got to hit all their lines. They got to remember everything. They're going to be, most likely, sometimes there's some crossover between these things, but most likely the person's going to be pretty nervous. Or you take the Army Ranger who's gotten parachuted many times in the middle of the night with night vision and weapons and shit, and is taking out the enemy and so forth. Take that guy and put him in a UFC cage. Maybe that's not his, maybe he doesn't have a good skill set when it comes to that. Maybe even just the crowd, like just being in front of 5,000 or 10,000 people and being live on pay-per-view. Maybe that, petrifies him. And then take the UFC guy who probably doesn't have a skill set in the military and drop him off in Afghanistan or whatever in the middle of the night with night vision. Maybe he doesn't even know how to use the weapons he's got, and so you can see quickly that you can be as mentally as tough as you want, and maybe that might help a little bit in those situations. But what's going to help you even more is to have a particular skill set, not just a mindset. The mindset is cool. That's helpful, especially if you're able to fend off some of the negative stuff. But the skill set is going to make it so much easier for you to fend off the negativity, because you're like, you know what? I'm really fucking good at this. I got this. I'm going to be fine. I'm not even going to worry about the negative.
Nootropics. Every single biohacker and their mother talks about the benefits of lion's mane or alpha GPC, blah, blah, blah. We have this mix of supplement, but no one really tells you how to analyze what you actually should be trying to take or what problems you may have. That's why Andy Triana has made the Nootropics ebook now on our website at powerproject.live. Now, we've had Andy on our podcast multiple times, and he's educated us on so many different things along with nootropics. But in this ebook, he goes in depth on how to analyze what your problems may be specifically and how to utilize nootropics to help fix those issues or to help progress in certain areas. Like if you're wanting to speak better, think faster, communicate better. There's so many things he goes in depth on in this ebook, and you can get it now on our website at powerproject.live. The link's in the description along with the podcast show notes.
Yeah. So then how do you think, how do people know when they are ready though? They've been keeping their head down for a long time. They haven't been looking up. When will people know when they are ready to jump into that?
I think you have to develop some wins. You got to put up some points on the scoreboard. And you also need to be aware that things are going to be difficult. Every time you notch yourself up a little bit, things are going to progressively going to get a little more complicated. With every pound I lifted, the next pound was just sitting there, waiting for me to try to lift it. And it wasn't really just strength. It was like a combination of a lot of things. But it was also a combination, again, back to the skill set thing. Like there's somebody somewhere that knows more about this. How do I just lift a little bit more? Can I lift a little bit more? Just on that topic, I mean, my best total was like 2630 or something, or 2620. But I think if you added up all the numbers that I did between bench, squat, and deadlift, I think it was like 2,700, or I might be misspeaking, maybe 2,500, 2,600. But my point is that I just didn't hit all the numbers on the same day. I already proved to myself that I was capable of some of those numbers, but the combination didn't happen on the same day. Is there somebody around that knows how to help me not only just hit those same numbers on the same day, but maybe increase each lift by an extra 10 pounds? And there is, and that's why you go to Ed Cohn, and that's why you go to Westside Barbell, and that's why you try to seek out the best people. And so when you start to seek out some people that are amazing, that are awesome at what they do, if you're not so sure about what you're going to be able to do, you start to talk to other people around you. Say, hey, how can I improve? What's going on? How do you think I'm going to? They're going to let you know. They're going to guide you the best that you can, the best way that they can. But to really know that you are like ready for that kind of next level stuff, no one can actually really tell you that, and you're not really ever going to know until you test yourself. You have to test yourself. Like, so if you don't test yourself with the thing that's difficult, with the thing that's haunting you, we could sit here all day long and talk about how you're going to give this great speech in front of everybody when you've been petrified about public speaking for most of your life. We can talk about how you're just going to go out there and you're going to knock them dead. And we could talk all the strategy and stuff. But if we haven't really done it yet, then we haven't done it yet. And we can read books about it, and you can be like, this is what Tony Robbins does, and you can get all fired up and pumped up, do all the same stretches and activities that he does, do some of the things that Chris Williamson mentioned on our show about how he prepares for podcasts and speaking engagements. But then you get out there and it's mom spaghetti, right? It's the Eminem thing where you go to talk and you can't put any words together at all. So you're not really ever going to know, but you do have to test yourself. And when you test yourself, you go out there and most likely, I'm sure there's cases every once in a while, most likely it's not going to be anything nearly as bad as what you made it out to be. And you're going to say, you know, like after I got done with the Boston Marathon, some people started to kind of ask, hey, you going to do another one? And immediately when I was done, it took me hours and hours to kind of recover from it. I'm not used to running that far. The recovery process of that was not fun, was not enjoyable. And there was some like suffering going on, basically. I was in a world of hurt for a while. Threw up, couldn't really eat. Just doing that, like grab your head, like, oh, like moan. And I didn't even know I was moaning kind of thing. Like you're humming to yourself too. Like you're like,
like a really, really bad hangover.
Yeah. You're just like, you're just making this weird noise the whole time. So I was like that for 6 hours. But you know what? The answer to the question is yes, I am going to do another marathon. Because to some degree, I love some of that. You know, I love the energy that we just put out for the run that we just did. I love that we did a couple of them, and Andrew probably wasn't sure of the pace and tempo, but a couple times I see Andrew, he's right with me, and it's like, this is fucking great. Like, and this is like the middle of the workout when it's at the suckiest point. And I can't even imagine what I do have some degree of what it feels like being in professional wrestling, and I used to box and stuff like that. So like when you get in the middle of something and you're getting your ass beat, there's something very Fight Club-ish about it. There's something very therapeutic about it. And I think you probably, in jiu-jitsu, you probably need to be kind of careful with it because you could just end up like tapping out to everybody all the time because you can end up kind of enjoying, you know, the person putting pressure on you and like, you know, to some extent. I mean, someone like Nsima is going to make you not enjoy it, but to some extent, you can kind of like getting roughed up, and you get done with class and you look and you're like, I got a shiner. And you're
that
like,
was me today.
Yeah, you're pretty pumped, and your nose is like, I remember that with boxing, you know, like just actually being pissed. I remember I got jabbed hard and I was like, whoa, it just rocked
like,
me.
This is going to look cool later.
I go to look in the mirror. I'm like, my nose got to be gushing blood. Yeah. There was nothing there.
Oh,
like, this sucks.
That's
nothing got
bullshit.
swollen or nothing.
That's a bummer.
But a couple times I've gotten hit in certain spots so hard that I ended up with like double black eye, which is fucking weird. You know, just getting punched on the side of the head weird. But I remember like after a lot of boxing practice and sparring and stuff, I remember, and Rocky says this in I think in Rocky 1, he says it. He talks about how everything hurts after you box. He's like, your hands hurt, your face hurts, and he says your hair hurts, which is a funny comment, but it does. Especially like when I was boxing, we would use headgear here and there, and like the headgear getting rattled around made it like worse. But it almost feels like a sunburn on your head.
Okay, yeah.
But you don't know what's wrong with you either. You're like, it's not like your head's like ringing. It's not like you feel like concussed necessarily, but like the muscular stuff in your head, just your scalp hurts. You're like, oh, fuck. And everything is like just super sore in a weird, in a way that I'm imagining is probably a way that you probably experience something similar with jiu-jitsu, where it's just like, just this overall achy, just shitty, this shitty ass like soreness.
You sit there drenched in sweat, just kind of staring, you're not looking at anything, but I'm just like, I'm there. And if somebody gets my attention, sure, I'll snap out of it. But I'm just sitting there like taking inventory. Like, yep, I'm probably going to feel that one later. Like I did feel like, cause when you're in the moment, and I'm sure boxing was exactly like this, you kind of feel like, oh, I heard something in my neck, but let's go. And you feel so good. You're just like, I'm good. And then you get in your car. All right, that felt a little something. Drive home, get out of the car. Oh, we got something brewing in here.
Yeah.
And then what happens for me is like, I'll get out of the shower, I'm getting dressed to come here. And then like, I'll look and be like, oh shit. Like I don't feel it. But then my wife will point it out, like, what's that? And like, she jokes around and she's like, who I have to beat up? Cause like, I'll have bruises all over and I wouldn't even recognize it. And it's kind of like, oh shit, my bad. Like, but that's pretty cool. Yeah. Definitely Fight Club.
Those guys don't want your wife coming over there. They'll start kicking everybody's ass.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious, when you were powerlifting, did anybody think you were crazy for like what you were working towards? And how many people actually knew?
In the sport of powerlifting, the cool thing is, you surround yourself with like-minded people. I say all the time, you walk with the lame, you develop a limp. That's something I got from my mentor, Louis Simmons. And so the powerlifters understood it. The other powerlifters, they got it. It was really rare. It was really rare for someone to be like, nah, bro, you're never going to get there. That was somebody that was in the sport. As far as like family members and friends and stuff, I don't think they just had any understanding.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. If I said I'm going to do jujitsu, and if I said I'm a white belt and brown belt and stuff, I can explain the belt system a little bit. Some people have probably some exposure to jujitsu, as do some people have some exposure to weights. But it's just at like such a weird level, I want to squat 1,000 pounds, or like that reaction I got from David Goggins, like telling him what I squatted, and he just started dying laughing, and he said, people they have no idea like what that means or what that is. Mm-hmm. People don't know how many like 45s, that is. They did lift and they did like bench press a plate or something at some point. But yeah, I mean, it's you're going to feel weird about it, but it's your own weirdness. It's not really, and no one really cares that much about what you do. I think it's common to think about the way that other people think about you and view you as if that's all they think about all the time. Even something as simple as like, you're kind of uncomfortable. You're eating with some people that you don't know that well, and you're worried about like, how am I going to get up? When am I going to get up? What if I turn this way? What if they see that my back is sweaty? Or what if they see that I kind of move weird because I'm in this weird bench thing, and I don't think anyone's really watching or observe, unless it's me. I'm going to make fun of you probably.
They're not going to be like, Mark, this is your 5th plate.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah. Or man, that's so strange. Andrew went to the bathroom twice, like he went to the bathroom twice in 90 minutes or whatever. It's like, I don't think anyone's really, paying that much attention or cares that much. It is cool though, when you do tell people about what it is you're trying to do, and they do get excited about it. I mean, that's nice. Somebody's like, family member or friend gets fired up, or maybe they go to the competition itself. That's really cool. But there wasn't a lot of like family members or friends that really went to any of this stuff. Cause like, again, it doesn't really register. It doesn't, if I was, an actor and I was in like Hamilton or something, that would register, but everyone would be like, I'm fucking going, right? Everybody would be pumped. And then when I went and did the Boston Marathon, I had a lot of family there too, because that's like more relatable. Like, I've heard of the Boston Marathon before. Oh shit, you're going to run 26 miles. Like most people know, at least have some idea that a marathon's like 20 something miles, and they definitely have heard of the Boston Marathon. But yeah, for lifting, my dad would go, and my wife and my brother and stuff like that here and there. But like, it wasn't like It wasn't like every family member. It's not like what you would think it would be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just think if you had a family member that was like really high level, like broke world records in something, you would probably be like, fuck, man, I don't even care or what it is. I'm going to go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so it just, for me, it wasn't that way just because powerlifting's a little weird offshoot thing. But again, I think the weirdness of it, I think is cool. I think people should lean into that. It's okay. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be a little different, a little weird. Don't bother trying to make people understand it. Don't bother trying to make people go to it. I'm not even saying I wanted them there. I'm just saying it's just so weird. Like I'm on all these fucking steroids and I'm massive and shit like that too. I'm big and I'm fat and you see person after person miss a lift because they got the bench shirts on and the squat suits and people are falling and people are bleeding and it's an extreme. It would be like early days UFC type stuff. Like who wants to go watch that? Like, oh yeah, my buddy, he's a cage fighter. Now people want to watch it, but back then people didn't have a skill set. It was just like barbaric, and people would beat the shit out of each other. You're like, I'm not going to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do have the like I think it's like the last shot of Bigger, Stronger, Faster, where the whole family's like jumping. They're happy because you hit. I don't know if it was a bench or
705 bench.
There you go. I bring that up because there's like a lot of like Instagram posts like it's something about tell people your goal's so big that it like makes them laugh or scares them or something like that. So just trying to kind of I guess clear that up because I think it's kind of silly, but at the same time like I want to accomplish something dope, but I don't want you to laugh at me for it. I want it to be somewhat realistic. Do you think building up courage to do something difficult can be a shortcut to happiness? I asked that because I've seen a clip, speaking of Instagram, Stylebender. Oh my gosh, UFC fighter.
The last Stylebender, yeah.
His name just escaped me. Where
Israel
Adesanya. Thank you.
Adesanya.
He grabs the microphone from Joe Rogan. And he's like, "Is it cool if I talk for a second here?" And he's like, "Yeah, do whatever you want." And he's like, people like Earth, I want you to, I wish you could experience this because I am so freaking happy right now. I need you to go out and do something and basically saying like you got to do something hard. And I was just like, wow, like I wonder if Mark would think that like doing something quote courageous can be a shortcut to happiness.
That's really well said. I think it helps because you just proved to yourself that you did something that you were scared of.
Mm-hmm.
You know going in that something's dangerous, and then you go and you do it anyway. That's pretty cool. And I'm not talking about something that's foolish, like just hitting the gas on your car and going like 150 miles an hour, something wild, where you could really get hurt or hurt somebody else, kill somebody else or yourself. Not really like that, but something that you knew was going to be difficult, losing weight, increasing your bench press, doing some MMA, doing some jujitsu, going to a boxing class, finally walking into that yoga gym and signing up for the yoga class, or the powerlifter guy that like would love to try Pilates or something, but just doesn't think he can do it, or the girl that needs to, walk through the doors of the local strength gym or powerlifting gym and start powerlifting. Like that does take, it makes you think all these thoughts. It makes you think, man, they're not going to want to help me. I'm all skinny and stuff. Mm-hmm. That's not, but what you'll quickly realize once you do step foot in there and once you do the thing that's difficult is someone's going to say, hey, I started out, I was way skinnier than you are right now when I started. And then you see them pick up like 315 pounds on a deadlift and you're like, holy shit. Like, okay, that's how this place works. Same thing with when you stepped into your first day of jujitsu. Someone's not like, dude, you're a fucking nerd. What are you doing here? You're a loser. Are you kidding? You don't know how to fight. You're never going to know how to fight. Actually, here, watch this. And they just choke you out. Mm-hmm. And then they wake you up and they're like, bro, you need to just go. You are fucking awful. Right? It's like no one treats you that. I think we think that, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But by going to do the hard thing, you're like, man, at least there's a thing from Jordan Peterson. where he talks about, he's like, basically kind of saying something like this. He's saying like, you know your own faults, you know your own shortcomings, but if you pick something up and move it over there and you move it somewhere, then at the very least you could say is, I picked that thing up and I moved it over there. Like, I might be a piece of crap. I might be this, I might be that. So when you do pick up 225 pounds or you squat 315 or something like that, you could say, I might not treat people that well all the time. I might do this, I might do that. But I do know how to make improvement. And if I know how to make improvement there, maybe I can improve my anger issue. Maybe I can improve my ability to communicate with people. Maybe I can improve my financial situation. Because to me, again, is the skill sets and the improvement are the two huge factors. And those are a key element to being happy. Because if you have great skill and if you have great skill and you still believe that you have an ability to improve, why wouldn't you be happy? Like, what would you be bummed out about? I guess sometimes some people can have maybe some expectations of themselves that are not realistic, because you can lie to yourself. You can get yourself in a position where you are spouting off stuff that just doesn't make sense yet. And that can happen from time to time. And I do know some people that they're so obsessed with improvement. They're so obsessed with skill set that they're not really that happy. But most of those people, it's very rare to like run into like a Michael Jordan or a Kobe Bryant or Tiger Woods or anybody like that. But most of the time, the people that I see that are really like fanatical about improvement and getting better, and then they're also like pissed that they're not where they need to be, they're just not being honest with themselves. They're not really doing the stuff that they need. Like, I just know that they're not doing it. We all know people like that. It's like, man, I don't understand, man. I'm trying this diet. I'm doing everything I can. How long have you been doing it for? Well, I've been doing it for 3 months. I haven't lost any weight. And you're like, that just doesn't make any sense at all. Because even if you were on a diet for a month and there was no weight loss results, wouldn't you think to change something slightly? Just a small, just maybe read another book or reread what you read about the diet that you're supposed to be on. I mean, we do run into plateaus. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but you should be able to acquire some more knowledge somewhere, and you should be able to figure that out. Like, especially for somebody that has a lot of weight to lose. Someone who's much thinner, obviously it's going to be more difficult. But doing the difficult thing, doing the hard thing, I think most of the time you're going to find that it's going to eventually lead to happiness. At first, it could lead to you being like kind of pissed or disappointed because maybe the thing that you're trying to do, maybe the hard thing that you're trying to do, maybe you're already doing it. Maybe you're already putting in a good effort, and maybe it just doesn't work out the way that you want it to. And that's pretty common. Like, that happens, but that's part of it. That's part of the whole thing. That's part of how you learn. I think for the last 2 years in a row, I think Nsima's finished in second place at Worlds. I think one time was a purple belt and this time was a brown belt. Mm-hmm. And that's got to be frustrating. We know what kind of athlete he is. We know how obsessed. You and I were laughing yesterday about. We had a coach here that was taking him through some drills, and Nsima's like, "Why is my foot moving that way? What's happening?" He's like, "Tell me what, tell me what's going on," because he wants to know everything, so he can, be able to kind of perfect these things. But I think Nsima is a person that has good perspective. He does have high expectations of himself. But he also just understands that this whole process is going to take time. Everything's going to take time. And if it's going to take time for an athlete like that, that means it's going to take time for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so similar to how we talk about the feet. I know this is I'll bring it around, I promise. If someone's feet hurt, what do they want to do? They want to reach for the cushy, this bigger, squishier shoe to protect their feet. And we're like, no, like, try to go for the one that's wide, the one that has less. Don't do it forever, but lean more into that. Because if you keep chasing the comfortable stuff, it's only going to get worse. And I think with, because I see it firsthand with kids, I'll just say society, most people, they're going the opposite way than going into the hard thing, thinking that they're going to find happiness in the more comfortable couch, the bigger TV so they can watch Netflix, the better video games or whatever it is, because like, no, I want to go this route to be happy. I want it to be as comfortable as possible. That's going to make me happy when I get X item, as opposed to like, oh man, that hard thing, that jujitsu thing, that lifting thing, that running thing, that's hard. The diet thing, that's hard. I'm going to go get pizza and play some video games because that's going to make me happy. But I think just like we were saying with the shoes, it's just going to make things worse because it's just going to set you back even further.
It's going to be, it's going to not feel so great to be 35 or 40 years old and not have a strong skill set and not be able to handle some stuff that's hard. You're not even going to be an attractive person in that manner. Like I know that's harsh, language a little bit, but something that's attractive for people to partner up with somebody else is someone's ability to like cope with stuff, is someone's ability to handle like a challenge. Doesn't matter if it's male, female, or male and male, or female and female. It doesn't make any difference. The thing that is going to attract you to somebody else is going to be that they are displaying courage, or they're displaying that they don't mind to stand up to a challenge here and there in certain things. And we all have our weaknesses. And a lot of times a couple will fill in each other's weaknesses. But you're also, you most likely aren't going to have a skill set that is monetizable in any way. I don't know if that's a word. But you're most likely not going to have a skill set that's strong either if you haven't challenged yourself. And so you have to challenge yourself. What's the new thing? You want to learn how to podcast. You want to learn how to film. You want to learn how to write scripts. Well, you're going to have to go around and ask some questions. You're going to have to go up to somebody and say, hey, you need a photographer? Sound familiar, Andrew?
It sure does.
And back to your point about the cushiness, like, why does the ground feel so harsh to somebody? Because they haven't really laid down on it. They lay down on their bed or their couch or their recliner, and they're used to the softness of those things. But then even if they were to sit in the grass, they would be uncomfortable. Meanwhile, somebody that has been on some hardwood floors or has been on some tile, maybe it's somebody that instars flooring. That person would be in heaven being on the grass. They'd be like, this is great. This is nice and plush and soft. And they would fall asleep in the grass. So I do agree. I think it's a really important thing that, you hear people, talk a lot about doing the uncomfortable thing. And there's no shortcut to it. There's not really a sweatless version of improvement. Like, you're going to have to sweat. You're going to have to work. You're not going to be able to improve on anything. It doesn't matter what. It could be the smallest thing. It could be a puzzle. It could be you coloring a book. It could be anything. It's going to take time for you to get better and to level up at that, and to be able to do more puzzle pieces, or be able to, color something more complex. It's just the way that it is. And it's that way for a reason. I think that one thing that is really interesting about courage is, as soon as you start to build some of it, then you're encouraged to continue further down that path. You're like, yeah, this is the right way, or this is the way. You kind of repeatedly start thinking to yourself, yeah, this is the way. This is the right way. I'm on the right path, because the movement itself is going to promote more movement. That's where the do more, be more stuff comes from. It's over time. We could do the same thing in the opposite direction, right? Everyone knows that.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone knows we can say, fuck it. I'm just chilling for today, watching some playoff games, and I ain't moving from the couch because yesterday was hard, blah, blah, blah. This week sucked at work. I asked for a raise, and they suck. I don't want bleep that out. They suck pepperoni. And, you could think all those things and you can kind of just talk yourself into, not only just laying on the couch and not exercising, but here you are not exercising and you're overeating. And you are just not getting outside, getting sunlight. I mean, the negatives they pile up quick. And then maybe you're sitting in your own negativity. You have a couple drinks. You start talking about your brother that pissed you off or your aunt or whatever. And you're just being all negative about everything. You go on social media, you're all negative there. And so we know that that's easy just to talk yourself into completely heading in the wrong direction negatively. But the cool thing is once you start to make a right decision and you start to go down that path, more and more paths will open up along the way for you to continue to do the right thing. And you are going to feel fatigued. You are going to be like, man, fuck, I'm tired. I'm really working. But also, I think it's important to realize and understand most of us are at like 40, 50, 60% of our capacity. Again, if you're really being honest with yourself, you know that you can handle, you know that you can do better. In every aspect of your life, you know that you can ratchet everything up at least a little tiny bit in every single aspect, whether it's going to sleep, whether it's the time that you wake up, whether it's the food that you consume when you wake up, the food that you consume as you're getting closer to bedtime. I mean, we know that if you can stop eating 2 to 4 hours before you go to bed, how beneficial it can be for your sleep. Maybe it doesn't work exactly that way for everybody, but most of the tracking and most of the stuff that we've heard, sometimes people won't do that. So there's so many different areas where you can lean in to the thing that's difficult, even something like cold plunging, which is just fantastic. And you see everyone doing it on the internet and you're like, I just don't want to see one more person cold plunge. I can't handle it. The cold therapy. Again, if you don't want to get one, you don't want to be into it, totally understandable. But every once in a while, make your shower uncomfortable. Just turn the thing to be cold. See if you can bear it for 30 seconds. And then you can be done with it. But did it cause any sort of response? Did you notice anything? Did it get you kind of revved up or fired up for the day? Maybe it did. And if it did, then it can be a habit that you cling to for a while to help build some skill sets of resilience.
Pat Project family, we love beef on this podcast. We talk about it a lot. All right. We love our meat. But sometimes eating the same meat all the time can get a little bit boring. That's why we partner with Good Life Proteins, which also has certified Piedmontese on their website. But sometimes you might just want to eat some chicken or fish or duck. Duck. Who eats duck? But you can eat duck. That's why if you go to goodlifeproteins.com, you can select their Build-A-Box options and input all the proteins you want. Then you'll select subscribe and save to save money on all of your meat. If you enter code PowerProject at checkout, you can save up to 25% on your subscription. That means you're going to be saving 25% on all of that different meat that's going to be heading to your door. Once again, head to goodlifeproteins.com. You can enter code PowerProject and save up to 25%. Links are in the description box below, as well as the podcast show notes.
Momentum goes both ways. It's a slippery slope and you can just fall right off that whole damn ledge. Maybe I'm getting too far ahead of myself, but for people listening they're about to embark on something that's going to they're going to need to call upon some courage to accomplish. Maybe they're in the middle of it and they're currently listening to this on like their marathon training or something. How should people appreciate the thing that they accomplished or they overcame? So that way, I don't know, I'm just thinking, because because I've heard this from a couple people that competed, they're like, oh, at my first competition, I wish I just stopped and looked up and looked around, but I was so zoned in on my match. I wish I could just take it all in, that sort of thing. Like, how do you get the most juice out of the squeeze when it comes to accomplishing something? And you can take whichever accomplishments of yours, whether it be the powerlifting, marathon, business, whatever it may be. How do people appreciate it?
I think that you do get honed in on the goal and you kind of, you forget how awesome it is just to be there. And I think for somebody that may have already competed in some stuff, I think now is the time to reflect and be proud of yourself about the fact that you did set foot into that gym or you did that thing. I think it's really important to kind of give yourself a little bit of a pat on the back and to recognize there's no reason why you can't take that into whatever new thing that you're about to go do. And so for people that are struggling and that haven't had an opportunity to really put up points on the scoreboard yet, there's probably places you put up points on the scoreboard, but you're just not really being kind enough to yourself to think about it. There's so many different examples of how good people are at certain things that they just don't even think about. You know, some people are really organized. Some people are really good at keeping their room clean or their closet clean. And it's like, I know, I get it. You're like, man, that's fucking pathetic. But it's still a skill set to be organized. Are you on time for your job? Like, we can just start anywhere. I can meet you anywhere. You know, are you good at cooking? Are you good at hunting? How did you acquire this particular skill set? And so, like, as you go into whatever new thing it is, you should have confidence because you have proved to yourself before and you've improved yourself before. And this new thing that you're about to go into, there is really nothing that you can change or do on game day. Everything that you did is already done, and it's just a byproduct of your training. It's a byproduct. It's like we're going to go skill set to skill set, and we're going to see what happens here on this particular day, if it's a sporting competition or something like that. And to be able to try to take it in and absorb it, it probably takes like a little bit of maturity of being, you know, being someone that's comfortable enough that probably has most likely done something similar. Otherwise, it's going to be really hard to try to take anything in. It's going to be, some of it's going to be like a blur. And then you'll have that thought of like, yeah, I wish I was able to do that. But you only really, that's another capacity, I think. It's another spot that you get to after you've been doing something for a while. And being in professional wrestling really teaches you that a lot, because professional wrestling is acting and entertaining. It's like sports entertainment all rolled into one. And you can't just do the movements. You can't just like hit somebody with an elbow, and you can't just like push somebody in the ropes. Like, you got to be theatrical about it. And you got to have big motions, and you got to be kind of loud with your movement of your arms and your head when you get hit and stuff like that. You have to be like theatrical. And so that automatically draws you to look at the crowd and to pay attention to everything that's around you. But for those of you that don't have those experiences, I mean, yeah, like the easiest thing in the world to do, I think, is just to look up. Just literally, just look up. Just bring your head up. You know, a lot of times we're on our phones and stuff nowadays, but if you're in a sport and you are trained and you are thinking about being the best or beating somebody else across from you, the odds that you're just going to bring your chin up and look around and look in the stands or look up at the ceiling are probably pretty low. But being a runner and being someone that goes outside, I love to look up. I love to look at the trees in Davis, California, where we're unfortunately having this crazy person stabbing some people. It really sucks. But in Davis, when I look up, I'll be running sometime and there'll be turkeys in the trees. And I just don't know anything about turkeys. I had no idea they can get their fat little bodies up there. And they make all kinds of crazy noises up there. So you would be surprised if you just stop and pay attention every once in a while and just look up and look around. That makes me feel really good. I don't know why, but just looking up and seeing these beautiful trees and stuff, yeah, it makes me grateful. It makes me grateful for the body that I'm in. Makes me grateful. Makes me think back to like, dude, this body is like lifted all these weights and done a bunch of things, and like it's still here and it's still taking me around town. I'm still able to run and breathe well, and like this is really neat. So I think when you get into these moments, I think that if you can look up, it would be magical, because you'll be so grateful, and you probably think of something that will almost make you cry. You probably think of your mom or your dad, or you'll think of like, man, this is just so awesome to be here. Like, fuck all these other goals I had. Like, this is just sick being here. And as soon as you feel that way, as soon as you feel that way about how awesome it is to be there, you're going to be so excited. And you're going to do so well that you're probably going to kind of let go of the anxiety, and you're probably going to perform way better if you can do that. But again, if you've never done it before, it's it can be really difficult. Because even in powerlifting, it took me a long time to be able to get to that point. You know, I remember doing a meet in at Jesse Burdick's gym. It was one of his Reebok record breakers. And I remember Chad Wesley Smith helped me for that meet. And I was getting ready to like bench press and stuff. And I remember seeing, like, I think my dad was there and like a couple other people were there I was friends with. There was a lot of people there I was friends with. But I remember Charlie Zamora was there. And Charlie, you know, like I'm talking to Charlie in between like attempts, you know, because I've been doing it for a long time. And Charlie's like, or in between warmups rather. And Charlie's like, well, I'm going to grab your son and I'm going to bring him up to the front when, you know, because Charlie, he's like that, right? He's the greatest guy in the world. Mm-hmm. Charlie grabs Jake and he brings him up and they're like on the side. And, you know, I go up and I'm fired up and everything, but it's also an opening attempt. And I know it's like not going to be that hard. But yeah, I take a moment. I look at Jake and I look at Charlie. Mm-hmm. Charlie, you know, is recording it and everything. And I get down on the bench and I do my thing, which I never even asked my son about. I never asked him if he remembers that or whatever. But what was really cool about it is it was 500 pounds. I took it down to my chest. You know, they tell you to have a little bit of a pause in there at the bottom at a powerlifting meet. And then they say press. And when they said press, boom, just blasted it up. And the crowd went, whoa.
Yeah, that's the best. Oh, that's the best.
Yeah, it was super cool. And so to do that in front of my son, I don't think my daughter was there. She might have been too young or whatever. I can't remember. But I do remember seeing them there and my wife there. And it's like, yeah, it just makes the moment. That's like a really fun moment. That was a really cool moment for me.
Incredible. That's all I have in regarding this topic. I just want to thank everybody that's been following Saturday School. It's been really cool seeing the comments, you know, because it seems like it's a different breed. I'm not saying that like there's no crossover from our everyday podcast, but the Saturday morning crew seems to be extra special. And I just want to say thank you guys for all the comments that you guys have been leaving. It's been really, really cool. Sometimes, like I've told people, I'm like, I feel sometimes like we talk into a brick wall. Like, are people actually listening to this thing? And,
hello?
And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, I'm super humble. It's just like, you know, like what you were talking about earlier, if we said like, oh, our podcast gets downloaded 1 million times, like, what does that even mean? But like, I'm sure when you and Jen Wiederstrom were on TV, I'm sure like your parents went nuts for that, right? You know, it's like, well, hey, like a couple thousand people might watch this today, but like we have millions of people watching the YouTube channel.
Right.
That's different, right? So like what I'm getting at is like, I'm just super grateful for everybody that checks out Saturday School.
And hopefully people are aware that it's Saturday, 5 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Saturday, 5 a.m. Make sure you put it on 5 a.m. If you're not putting it on at 5 a.m., then, you know, I don't even know. I don't know where to begin with you.
Yeah. You're sleeping in. You're off the team.
Take us on out of here, Andrew.
Again, thank you everybody for being here today. I appreciate you guys. Drop those comments down below. Let us know what you guys think about today's conversation. And if you want some more stuff like this, we did an episode on manifesting, which I think fits right perfectly in line with this. So that'll pop up on the screen. Make sure you guys go check that out if you haven't already.
Let us know what you want to hear from us, too.
And then, yeah, drop the comments. Let us know what you guys want to hear us talk about next. Follow the podcast at MB Power Project all over the place. My Instagram is at I am Andrew Z. Mark Bale, where you at?
I'm at Mark Smelly Bell. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later. Bye.